It was a tough week for the #1 seeds in the MLS playoffs.
And a tough week for New York and LA in terms of their coaches.
But it's never a tough week here on MLSnet.com's Extra Time. Hello everybody, I'm Greg Lawless, this is Shep Messing, and this week on ET, it's the playoffs. Eastern and Western Conference Finals are going to get underway later on this week, but the big news, Shep, of course, is that the coaches in LA and New York are out. I mean, this broke earlier in the week, and it came as a shock.
Well, first of all, Greg, I think it's a sign of credibility for Major League Soccer when we have these huge coaching moves. You're right. I think nobody shocked by what happened in LA. As soon as San Jose was awarded a franchise, it was kind of in the cards. Most of us felt that Frankie Yallop would end up there, but New York, shock.
Out of the blue, really. It came down on Monday. All of a sudden, there were rumors flying around that Bruce Arena was out, that he was meeting with the players. He had a 16-10 record with New York. And, you know, the powers that be with the Red Bulls basically said he didn't win MLS Cup, and that wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I don't really buy that explanation, but, you know, having said that, I'm a Bruce Arena fan. I think he's not a great coach. He's legendary in this country in terms of unparalleled success at the collegiate, the professional level, and at the world stage with the national team. So Bruce Arena will be fine. I also kind of like this Red Bull high drama, we want to win. That's kind of the European Salzburg, Austrian philosophy that we need results now. So I'm not picking sides. I'm a Bruce Arena fan, but for Red Bulls, they better get the next one right.
And, okay, so there's the question that comes up. How do they get it right? What's next?
I think in New York, historically, Greg, they've had some of the biggest named coaches in the world. The Brazilian World Cup, Pereira. They've had Queiroz. They've had Boromir Tunovic, multiple World Cups, Bruce Arena. And yet probably the most successful coaches here were Alfonso Mandela and Octavio Zambrano. So maybe you go with Peter Novak. I don't think you bring a Capello or a Mourinho here to this team.
Well, you might go small in New York, but out in Los Angeles, they're certainly going to go big. I mean, everything, all the indications in LA. Frank Yallop is out, didn't have a good season, didn't make the playoffs for the second year in a row under Yallop in LA, and all indications right now are they're going to make a big splash.
Yeah, I'm an LA Galaxy fan, and I never used to be, but I love the Beckham signing. I love what they're trying to do out there, and I agree with you. A Capello, you know, forget it. He gets along with David Beckham, regardless of what happened at Real Madrid. A Mourinho, if you could get one of those two guys, boy, I'd do that.
Well, you're going to have to dip deep into your pockets if you're going to try and get one of those guys. Now, how do you see Yallop doing in an expansion team up in San Jose?
Yeah, look, I think Frankie Yallop is a proven winner. At every level. But he did it the first time around in San Jose, struggled a little bit with the Canadian national team, obvious problems in LA, but he's going to do fine.
Well, there's some big coaching moves all over the league and some coaches around the world that are right now waiting by their phones hoping that either New York or Los Angeles is about to ring up. The Eastern Conference Finals see two foes that have gotten pretty familiar with each other the last couple of years, New England and Chicago. These two teams have met 5 times in the playoffs already. Chicago comes into this one flying. They have a 10-game unbeaten streak. New England, on the other hand, though, they didn't give up a goal in their series against New York. They snuck through on that one pretty well. They're looking good, too.
Greg, I think this is a great matchup. Tactically, positionally, the players on the field, the coaches. Juan Carlos Osorio for Chicago, you know, good with the X and O's. Stevie Nicol, the master at trying to manage a game. So this should be very good, and there's some good individual matchups that could determine the outcome. Obviously, Blanco, one of them.
Well, Blanco's certainly a key. The Revolution, the last time they played Chicago, in Chicago, they lost, and Blanco really killed them. He had so much space in the midfield. So New England, Shauri Joseph, Jeff Larentowicz, they're going to have to shut him down a lot more. On the other hand, Chicago has those speedy forwards in Chris Rolfe and Chad Barrett that could cause them a lot of problems.
I think you've isolated what's going to determine the winner, and I think the winner is going to be New England because I think they can get out the back line of Chicago, spread the ball wide, get behind them, and really put pressure on them. I love Condé, but I'm not convinced about the defensive capabilities for Chicago. And I think if New England presses the attack, I think they win the series.
Well, and if they're going to press the attack, it obviously comes down to Steve Ralston, who had a terrific game against New York in their second leg of their series. And Ralston is really the key for them into the attack, whether he can hold the ball, whether he stays in the middle. However, you know, Chicago has Chris Armas, great veteran player, certainly knows how to shut down a guy like Ralston. So I think there's also going to be that matchup. I mean, the center of the midfield is where it's going to be won and lost.
Look, it's one game. It's at home for New England. Bob Kraft, I love this guy as an owner.
Yep.
He was there. He was there for the last game on the field with the players. He took the football stripes off so that they can enjoy a great soccer game. I think that home field advantage comes into play.
And he stayed there the night before the Pats were going to play Indianapolis, too. So you have your owner in behind there. Chicago, on the other hand, they are rolling along. Blanco is certainly dangerous if he gets a free kick or something like that. Should be a good game, but I'm going to go with the core team that's made it to MLS Cup the last 2 years, New England Revolution. Out west, the defending champions Houston Dynamo came up with a huge 4-1 win over Dallas in their second leg. And Kansas City upsetting Chivas USA, the top seed in the West. This game is going to be Saturday night. How do you see this one coming out?
Greg, Kansas City has underimpressed me the entire year, but I really have to give them credit. I really do. They did a great job going into a hostile place, managing the game, 0-0, getting through. They're very balanced. They've done a great job. Kurt Onalfo really has them playing as the consummate team. They have Eddie Johnson. He hasn't been playing well, but other guys in the midfield, Davey Arnau, they've played well. Having said that, I'm picking Houston, but I'm giving
Okay.
Kansas City credit.
Well, Kansas City certainly deserves some credit. I mean, their team defense has been great so far when you have Jimmy Conrad, Kerry Zavagnin, Sasha Victorine, great two-way player. So they're getting somewhere in there. Of course, now they have to deal with Houston, who is certainly the most balanced team, maybe the most balanced team MLS has ever seen, actually, this year, going forward and in the back. And how do you stop Brian Ching, Brian Mullen, Brad Davis, Stuart Holden, Dwayne De Rosario, all these weapons that they have?
There are too many weapons because Jimmy Conrad is actually a good matchup with Brian Ching,
Right.
but they have nobody to pick up the rest of the team. So we picked it up 7 months ago. We both predicted a final that would be New England and Houston. I'm staying with that. I think Dominic Kinnear, he's going to push that back line up high. He's going to shorten the field. He's going to put pressure on a very good Kansas City team. In the end, too many weapons by Houston.
Well, I agree. I think there are too many weapons. However, Kansas City does have that Eddie Johnson in there. You know, you never know. He hasn't scored in 7 games, but he's taking away other players, opening space maybe for Scott Seeley to get one. You never know.
It's one chance we talked about because I do believe Dominic Kinnear will play that back line up high. So the speed of Eddie Johnson, play a ball over the top, boom, get a goal. That could change the game.
Well, we'll see what Dominic Kinnear really does because we're now joined by Coach of the Year candidate, Dominic Kinnear. Dom, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Shep.
So we got to start out. Kansas City coming down to Houston. Hopefully you have another 30,000 fans out there. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Well, it's going to be difficult for sure because, you look at Kansas City's not only record in playoffs, but their defensive record overall is very good. And they do defend well. Jimmy Conrad had a great game against Chivas, and Kevin Hartman was solid. The other guys around them, and they do have that breakaway pace with Eddie Johnson and Scott Seeley. So, it's important for us to get on to a good start, hopefully make the field small, have them play in their half the field, keep them under pressure, and try and, carry over that momentum we had from Dallas where we were kind of, really relentless on our pressure and creating chances.
Dominic, your team plays so well under your tutelage, home and away. You talked about playing at home, pushing that back line up high, shortening the field. Don't you have to be wary of balls over the top to the speed of Eddie Johnson?
100%. I think when I talk about making the field small, Shep, it means there's pressure on the ball. I mean, if there's no pressure on the ball, it's no use for us playing high because, timing and speed can kill you with a good ball, and they do have players in midfield that can definitely spray the ball around. So we have to be really, really careful. And especially when the ball turns over, we have an eye on where Scott Seeley and Eddie Johnson are at because, like I said, they burned us last time they were here. We turned the ball over in our own end with their movement. So really important for us to make sure when the ball turns over, either we're in good defensive shape or we put immediate pressure on the ball.
Well, Dom, let's move away from that game just a little bit. Obviously, there's a fraternity among coaches and a couple of coaches out of their jobs this week. And Frank Yallop going up to San Jose. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's a great fit. I mean, John Dole had a good quote in the press release saying that Frank's best coaching years were in San Jose, and I think the fans there and the people, it's a good relationship. You'd like to see that franchise be successful. I think Frank's an easy candidate for that job to make that team successful.
I said before, Dominic, that these big-name coaching changes a sign of actually credibility in Major League Soccer. Were you taken by surprise by the New York move?
I definitely was. I think if you look at it, as far as franchises go, You think that New York and LA are probably the bigger franchise in this league. So for coaching changes to be made within days of each other, I think kind of caught everybody by surprise, especially with Bruce in New York. I think we all kind of knew that there was maybe some friction there in Los Angeles, but I think the one in New York kind of caught everyone by surprise, especially with Bruce's success in the past, not only in MLS but in the national team. You think he would have got to coach the team next year, but I mean, you never know what's going on if you're not there day to day.
That's true. Well, Dominic, day-to-day, you guys have been doing great so far, and we wish you all the luck this Saturday against Kansas City, and thanks again for coming on ET.
Oh, thank you, guys. Do a great show.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tom.
So, Shep, not to toot my own horn, but last week I went 4 for 4 on my predictions. This week we have the same predictions, though.
You're the sports doctor. You were right. You went with your head last week. I went with my heart. Something's a little bit crazy, though, because we're both on the same page this week.
Well, the head and the heart are actually agreeing this time. So that's all the time we have for ET, but join us again next week. Shep and I will be here, and we'll kick it around.